She threw me away at 16. Now she wants my money for her new kids. I let her speak, then shut the door. I still remember the sound the trash bag made when I picked it up off the porch. Plastic, scraping concrete, the weight of my life packed in like a week's worth of garbage. It was a Thursday. I was 16. I'd just gotten back from school, walked 2 miles home because my mom had forgotten to pick me up again. I was sweaty, tired, and already anxious about a math test I'd probably fail because I couldn't concentrate at night with my 2 toddler half-siblings screaming in the background. And there it was, the trash bag, inside, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 t-shirts, some socks, my busted iPod Touch, and a pair of shoes that weren't even mine. No note, no explanation. I stood there for a full minute thinking maybe she was doing laundry and just dumped stuff outside by accident. Then the screen door opened. "Don't stand there like an idiot," my mom snapped. "Take your stuff and go." That was it. I laughed at first, an ugly, stunned little sound. I thought she was joking, testing me, being dramatic. "Go where?" I asked. "That's not my problem anymore," she said. "You think you're grown? Time to act like it. I can't keep carrying your dead weight. I have a family now." Let that sink in. I have a family, now. Like I wasn't part of it, like I never had been. Looking back, there were signs. Her new husband hated that I existed. He didn't say it, but I saw it in how he flinched when I spoke, or how he never included me when he said things like, "our family." And my mom, she was just tired of raising a daughter who reminded her of her past, tired of being responsible, tired of being anything other than adored. So she replaced me with 2 kids under 5 and a man with a truck and a 6-pack of beer in the fridge, and tossed me like the last reminder of her old life. I didn't cry. I picked up the bag. My hands were shaking, but I didn't say a word, not when she shut the door, not when I walked to the curb, not when I pulled out my cracked phone and texted the only person I could think of. I didn't have a backup plan. No money, no ID that hadn't expired, no sleeping bag or place to go. What I had was my cracked screen phone and one person I trusted, Renee. My best friend since 8th grade. The one who once gave me her entire lunch because she saw me stuff 2 granola bars into my backpack and try to make that last all day. Me, "Is your mom home?" "Yeah, why?" "I need somewhere to stay. Just for tonight, I got kicked out." There was no pause, just, "Come over. Now." By the time I showed up, Renee and her mom were waiting at the front door. Her mom didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into the house, took the trash bag from my hand, and said, "You're staying in Renee's room. I'll call the school in the morning." I broke down that night, in the middle of their living room floor, with someone else's throw blanket clutched to my chest. Snot, tears, the whole thing. Ugly crying that had been bottled up for so long it came out in gasps. And they let me. No judgment, no scolding, no, "What did you do to deserve it?" Just comfort, food, a warm place to sleep. For the first time in years, I felt like a kid again. Not a burden, not a mistake, just a kid. The next few weeks were rough. Renee's mom helped me get a social worker, helped me enroll in a free lunch program, bought me deodorant and socks and an extra toothbrush. I got a part-time job after school, saved every dollar, applied for scholarships I didn't think I'd win, wrote college essays during my lunch break, and studied like I was being chased, because I was. Chased by the version of me my mom believed I'd become: homeless, bitter, broken. Disposable. But I wasn't disposable. I was determined. I made it out, scraped my way into community college, worked full-time, then transferred, then graduated. 1 degree, then another, and eventually I made money. Real money. Tech job. Startup stock. IPO. Then silence. No one from my old life called. Not my mom, not her husband, not the kids I used to babysit while she went out and played single. Until one day, years later, they did. A knock on my porch, and the same woman who threw me out at 16 now stood on my welcome mat, asking me to pay for the college educations of the kids she kept. "You're successful now," she said. "And they're your family." I stood there staring at the woman who told me I was no longer her problem, and I smiled, because this time she needed me. The knock on my door was soft, hesitant. I live in a quiet neighborhood now, stone porch, clean mailbox, potted plants, the kind of place where people don't show up unannounced unless it's a package or a mistake. But there she was, my mother, same tired eyes, new haircut, that familiar smell of desperation mixed with drugstore perfume. Behind her, 2 teenage kids, my half-siblings. I hadn't seen them in years. The last time I changed one of their diapers, I was a teenager myself. Now they looked awkward. Not sure why they were there, not sure what they were about to be dragged into. "Hey," she said, "you look different." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She looked down at my porch, freshly painted, clean, and hesitated like the welcome mat might explode. "So," she started, "they're seniors now. You probably remember." She laughed. "Time flies." I didn't say anything. They're both really smart, honors programs, looking at some good schools. We're just not in the best financial spot. Their dad got laid off. You know how it is. And then the kicker, they were hoping you might be willing to help out with tuition, just to get them started. Like I was a scholarship, like I was a refund check she forgot to cash. I stood there for a second, let the silence settle, looked the kids in the eyes, scared, hopeful, completely unaware of the history between their mother and me, and then I smiled. "Come in, let's talk." I made coffee. Real coffee, imported, fresh ground. Not the instant stuff she used to serve in a chipped mug when I asked for breakfast before school. She looked around the kitchen like it offended her. "Nice place," she muttered. "You always were lucky." There it was, that word, lucky. Not hardworking, not resilient, not "I'm sorry for what I did to you," just lucky. I handed her a folder. She opened it slowly. Inside, a single paper, the exact eviction notice she gave me at 16. Not legal, just handwritten, crumpled. I'd kept it all these years. "You remember that day, right?" I asked. "Because I do. I remember every word." She stared at it, quiet now. "You told me I was your past, that your real family needed you more, that I'd figure it out. And I did, without you." I let the silence breathe. Then I looked at the kids. "You're not the reason I won't pay for college, but she is." The silence after I said it was heavy. Not the kind of awkward silence you get after an argument. No, this was different. This was the silence of consequences finally catching up to someone who thought they were immune. My mom's mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to defend herself, to spin it, to say it wasn't exactly how it happened. But the paper in her hand, the eviction note she wrote with her own pen in her own words, was staring her down like a ghost that refused to stay buried. "I was young," she said finally, voice quiet. "I made mistakes." "You were 37, I replied, "Shut her up." She tried again. "I didn't have support back then. I didn't know how to be a mom to you and start over with them. I panicked." I tilted my head. "So you threw me away." "I didn't throw you. You gave me a trash bag full of clothes and told me I wasn't your problem." I turned to the 2 kids, my half-siblings, still standing awkwardly in my entryway. Eyes darting, processing everything like it was a scene from a movie they didn't want to be cast in. "I'm not blaming you," I said gently. "None of this is your fault. You're just kids trying to go to college. I respect that." Then I looked back at her. "But you don't get to show up now and pretend you raised someone like me. You abandoned me, and now you want a return on an investment you never made." She looked down. Finally, for once, she didn't have a snide comment or a guilt trip locked and loaded. "So no," I continued, "I'm not paying for their college. Not because I hate them, not out of revenge, but because you burned every bridge between us. And I'm not building a new one with bricks you expect me to pay for." She started crying, not loud, not fake, just quiet, tired tears. The kind that say maybe she finally understood what she did, or at least that there'd be no more faking her way out of it. Then I did something unexpected. I turned to her kids and said, "You want help? Here's the number for my scholarship advisor. I know a few financial aid routes. I'll give you my old essay templates. That's all I can offer." They nodded, slowly, like they understood. She looked like she was about to crumble because they thanked me, not her. And I realized in that moment this wasn't revenge. This was release. They say news travels fast in families, but judgment? That moves even faster. By the time the sun went down that same night, I was getting blown up from every direction. A cousin I hadn't seen since I was a teenager messaged me on Facebook with a single sentence. "You really told her no?" As if that was shocking, as if I owed her something after all these years of silence. Then came the text from my uncle, my mom's older brother, who once told me I was just a difficult kid when she kicked me out. Now he was taking her side again. "It wouldn't kill you to help your siblings. They didn't do anything to you. No, they didn't. But they also didn't raise me, and they weren't the ones who took me in when I had no place to go. That honor belonged to strangers, but no one wanted to talk about that. They just wanted me to fall in line. She's trying now. She's older, wiser. You're being bitter. No, I was being honest, for the first damn time. Then came the guilt trip call from my grandmother, sweet little voice, syrupy like always, asking how I could be so cold. She's your mother, honey. God tells us to forgive. I nearly laughed. This woman hadn't called me in years. She hadn't visited when I was couch surfing. She hadn't said one word when her daughter threw me out like trash. But now she found Jesus just in time to lecture me on grace? She needs your help, she said. You have the means. You're not struggling anymore. And that's what it boiled down to. Not love, not loyalty, just leverage. Because I wasn't struggling anymore, they assumed I owed everyone comfort, even if I never received any. I didn't answer most of the messages. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I didn't explain my decisions to people who only remembered I existed when it was convenient. But I did text my mom one last time. You told everyone I was your burden. Now they're mad I didn't volunteer to carry yours. That's not how this works. And I blocked her again. Here's the thing people don't talk about when you come from dysfunction. The moment you set a boundary, you become the villain in everyone else's story. But I was finally okay with that, because being the villain in their version meant being the hero in my own. A week passed. No new messages, no calls, just silence. The kind you know isn't peace, but the eye of a storm someone's still trying to spin behind your back. Then I got a message from someone I never expected. Darla, my mom's old friend. They used to work together at a medical office back in the day. She was the one who always looked uncomfortable when I showed up places with my mom, not because of me, but because she knew. She saw too much. Her message? I shouldn't be saying anything, but you deserve to know. Your mom didn't come to you because of college. She came because she's being sued. Her husband racked up debt in both their names. The house is going under. She thought if she tied it to the kids, you'd write the check. Be careful. I sat there for a minute, letting that settle. So it wasn't about education. It wasn't about redemption. It was about leverage. She knew I had money. She knew I had a good heart. And she used the only thing she thought might get to me. Those kids. It was strategic. A performance. All of it. That's why she brought them to the porch. That's why she cried only after they thanked me. That's why she looked stunned when I didn't hand her a check, because I was never supposed to question it. She banked on guilt. She just underestimated how much healing I'd done since the last time she saw me. A week later, I heard through Darla that my mom and her husband were served foreclosure papers. They had less than 90 days to leave. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. But I also didn't reach out. I'd spent years wishing she would show up and apologize. Instead, she came to my door with a mask on and a plan in her back pocket. That broke whatever part of me still wanted something like a reunion. There would be no tearful hug, no cathartic movie ending, no I see you now moment. What I got was better. Clarity. People say blood is thicker than water, but what they forget is the full quote, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The people who bled for me, supported me, lifted me up when I was drowning, they weren't family by blood, they were chosen. And that was enough. A few weeks passed. No calls, no texts. The dust had settled, but I could feel it, like a distant rumble in the ground. Something was coming. Then I got a letter in the mail. Not a formal envelope, no return address. Just my name, handwritten, slightly shaky, like the person writing it wasn't sure if they should be. Inside, one page. My mom's handwriting. I get it now. You don't owe us anything. I shouldn't have come to you the way I did, but I'm scared. The house is gone. He left. I have nowhere to go. The kids are staying with a friend. I have nothing. If you don't help me, I don't know what I'll do. No apology. No ownership of what she did to me when I had nothing. Just desperation. I sat on my porch that night, rereading the letter over and over. And finally, I made a decision. Not out of rage, not out of pity, but out of clarity. I wrote her back. You told me once I had to figure it out, that you had a family now, that I wasn't your problem, so I did figure it out. Without you, I built a life with people who love me, who choose me, who see me for who I am. That's my family now. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. Do not contact me again. I included a prepaid Visa card for exactly $100, just enough to buy a bus ticket to anywhere and get a meal. Not because she deserved it, but because I needed to know that the last thing I ever gave her was the absolute minimum of my humanity, not my forgiveness, not my trust, not another second of my peace. Just a line. Drawn. Clear. Unshakable. She tried once more after that. An unknown number, a voicemail I didn't listen to. I deleted it before the second ring. I blocked every possible route she had to me, because I realized something that day. Sometimes healing doesn't come from reuniting. It comes from finally refusing to open the door. I stood at my front door one morning, coffee in hand, sunlight pouring in through the windows. It had been months since the letter, since the last attempt at guilt, since the final voicemail I never listened to. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt light, like I wasn't carrying her anymore, or her choices, or the weight of being the one she left behind. I walked past the framed degrees on my wall, not because they define me, but because they remind me of every night I studied with an empty stomach, every couch I slept on, every test I aced with a headache and 3 hours of sleep, every job I worked when I should have been a kid. And now I'm the one writing the checks, but not to her, to myself, to my chosen family, to the life I built out of ashes. A few weeks ago, Renee and I had dinner. The same friend whose mom took me in, who gave me my first safe home. She smiled at me between bites of pasta and said, "You know what I remember? You didn't cry the night she kicked you out. You just asked where the bus stop was, and then you cleaned the dishes." We both laughed, and I said, I think that was the moment I became someone else. Not someone broken, not someone bitter, just someone free. The truth is, I don't hate my mom. I don't wish her harm. I don't fantasize about revenge. I don't hope she suffers. I just don't let her live rent-free in my head anymore. Because for years, I built a home inside myself, brick by painful brick, where I could finally be safe. And she doesn't get a key to that place, ever again. As for her kids, they're grown now. And last I heard, one of them graduated with a full-ride scholarship. They never asked me for help again. I think they understood more than she ever did. Maybe one day they'll break the cycle too. I hope they do. But that's their road to walk. Mine leads far away from the porch I was once thrown off of. Comment below, would you have even opened the door? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more raw, emotional stories of betrayal, strength, and the freedom that comes from finally saying no. Take care. See you next time.